This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
You know how sometimes the first play of the game can be a real tone setter?
Aussie.
Yeah, I basically just went with Ashton Jen Teabag.
NFL.
He's not a walking 7 for 70 as I learnt last week when he went 1 for 5.
Fantasy.
I'd probably lean towards taking Henry maybe ahead of McCaffrey just because of what I've seen.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Loading.
Australia's premier NFL Fantasy Show is back with thanks to the Aussie Gridiron Network. This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. They call me Matty C, and I'm always here, but joining me, and you may know this guy from many seasons working opposite me here, it's Taylor Goodall. How are you, mate?
Matty, we are so back. This feels the opposite of being picked in the sack. Let's fucking go.
Every week we get together and you start with a big lead in, and I'm ready for the Ryan man, and every time you get something out of me. You always get a giggle or a stifled laugh or a knee slap. You always get something, mate. You're on a streak.
Speaking of being kicked in the sack, how about those Queensland wackers? Shout out, man, Josh.
He's going to be so mad at me that I've got a New South Wales scarf on top of the Pastry State Lions hoodie tonight. He's going to be so mad at me.
Look, Madge, I'll be annoyed about my Queensland, but he'll be loving my wallpaper and my name for this Zoom meeting.
He will. Let's describe this for the audio only. There's a guy on there named George. You want to walk me through that?
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's actually a guy that I've probably talked out in fantasy in previous years, which is funny, but just a little preview of as someone that I am definitely in on in fantasy this year. Not George Kittle, George Legittle.
Oh,
is my boy that's my wallpaper for tonight. So, yeah, I'm sure Midge will get a kick out of that one. But just to bring it back down to earth, Queensland, you are so shit.
Oh, my God. Billy, no coach good. Terrible. I can't believe they only had to play against 12 New South Welshmen for just 10 minutes. It hardly seemed fair.
Fucking send us a real state to play against.
Oh, my gosh. I did see a little something that showed that of the last 10, this is such a diversion, the last 10 Queensland tries in State of Origin, only one has been against a full 13.
Yeah, no.
That's pretty tough, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, New South Wales just don't get anyone sent to the bin. They're not letting any points in.
And that's it. Yeah, it's one-way traffic. Hey, mate, often at the start of the show, I'll do something really aggrandizing for you by calling you Australia's finest fantasy analyst. And I mean, sometimes it probably sounds a bit cursory, but I don't really say it lightly. When I say it, I do mean it. There is a bunch of evidence to back this claim up, because last year you were in 13 leagues, and I just want to know, they're all different ranges, right? They're not just 10-team redraft against colleagues and family who don't know fuck all. There's expert leagues, there's dynasty, there was an execution league. Yep. And how many finals did you get to? How many playoffs?
All 13, mate. It was definitely something I was amazingly proud of, because I've often brought up on this podcast that I don't like to leave any league alone. Like, some people, if they're in a few leagues and they're starting to go shit in one, they kind of just let it lag and they just want to focus on the ones they're going good in. But last year was definitely one that I was very, very proud of some of the rankings I put into the season. Like, there was obviously some guys that I really took shots on, especially in the running back position last year, that I just thought were getting underdrafted. And I'm the kind of person that even if I'm in 13 leagues, if I see the right value in draft, I'll draft the same guy 7 times if I have to. I really like to have conviction on people, and if I have to go down with the ship because that call doesn't work in a certain year, then so be it. But I don't spread my teams just for the sake of it. I go for the guys that I like in each particular draft. I go into each draft with my own rankings and what I think is going to happen. And if I have to draft the same guy a million times, then so be it. I even used to bring it up. I'd have Derrick Henry or Saquon score a fucking touchdown last year, and I felt like my phone would explode because I'd have about 5 sleeper notifications, 3 from NFL.com. It was just like, I just had those guys everywhere. So that was a huge part of my success last year in the regular season, that I had conviction on these guys. They worked out, and that's why they were all on my teams. And yeah, I just was really, really proud to be in 13 leagues and make the playoffs in all 13.
Yeah, it is incredible. And I know I'm more acutely aware of the Derrick Henry touchdown scoring than me, mate. I want to lose the water in my stance on that. But, mate, I guess part of this is, right, where does that success come from? Because we start in the same place every year, right? We start making our rankings and we start looking at what's changed from the previous year and in some cases things that haven't changed. But is that kind of it? You just lean on that?
Yeah, look, it's a lot of different things. So you know me pretty well. I'm pretty big into like my O-line rankings. Like often PFF will bring out their offensive line rankings, and I think they're really, really important for running backs. And I think they're really important for players either changing teams like we saw last year. We're not going to have as much of that this year, but last year I think it was huge because I think people struggled to value these guys that were changing teams because they just kind of couldn't get their head around, maybe these guys don't have it anymore and that's why they had to change teams. But I don't think it was getting talked enough how big an O-line improvement these guys were getting from their old teams. So I just thought there was a lot of like sort of lag in the market in the fantasy community, and these guys just weren't getting taken high enough. So, but in general, even if it's not specifically for that, I just do a lot of research around what helps these guys, like what helps a running back and what's changed from last year to this year and why a guy might be getting underdrafted. So I'll admit, some of my early rankings, I haven't really had a chance to delve into that like a lot yet. Normally that's kind of happening sort of in the July range when we start to do our ranking shows, and that's when I really, really plant my flag on guys. But there's definitely a few, as we'll find out on tonight's episode, that I've sort of earmarked as guys that I think are just getting horrendously underranked in the current ADPs. Obviously, things can change, but as it stands now, I just think there's some guys that are guys, if they stay anywhere near where they are now, they're going to be on a lot of my teams.
Oh, mate, and that's it. Like, it's early, and we realise that we're not going to be out in the town square shouting all this through rolled up newspaper for the next 4 months, right? Things change, but at this stage, we just want to give people a little bit of a compass on the things that we're thinking about, because how many days of the year don't you think about fantasy football, Dave? For me, it's very few.
It's like you get a little period there where it's a lot of my NRL Supercoach brain, like until looking into stuff. But there's always, I don't think NFL ever fully switches off for me. It's like NRL switches off in NFL season, but NFL never really fully switches off for me, even in NRL season. It's it's just something that I absolutely love, and when you're in dynasties and stuff, it kind of never slips away. So you're always thinking about it.
I can't turn it off either. So look, nailing it on the head here tonight, we talk about who we love comparative to the rankings that we've put together versus a bunch of the major websites, and we've drawn a consensus of them, and who we also dislike compared to those major sites. We're going to plow into it in just a little minute. Stay with us.
G'day, Gridiron.
Anyone that hasn't joined us before, it's pretty simple. Let's kick it off, eh? Is everyone ready?
The four horsemen of NFL in Australia.
If the sound ever plays, the pick is officially in.
Nick the lineman.
So it's the worst against any team, and it's also the worst passer rating that he has against any team at 66.3.
Brad the coach.
The Steelers have held the Ravens under 20 points in 7 straight games.
Isaac the analyst.
For this one, I couldn't understand it either. Like, I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Ian the Viking.
Full of passion, full of fight. They might genuinely be interesting to watch again.
Previews, overreactions, and bloody best bets.
If Derrick Henry can get rolling, then I think it's no contest. The Ravens are going to win.
As a fan of the NFL, you hope he comes back because he's just an absolute beast when he gets on there.
That would be able to give, at least Justin Fields a chance to be able to build.
Let's move on after that insanity.
So I just think, though, it's going to stop here.
Defensively for the Bills, I don't think that's actually going to combat what the Chiefs do already.
Yeah, I guarantee it. Pete would get down on his knees for that.
G'day, Gridiron.
I love spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet man.
I love spreading my legs.
Twice a week, all season long on the Aussie Gridiron Network.
So let's just jump straight in to one of the key positions in fantasy football. Mate, I've always been get a gun running back early and feel good about it. There's no question that you and I align with a lot of the big sites and even with each other largely with regard to where we've placed some of the biggest names at running back. The top handful everywhere, us included, in some order, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, even throw Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey into that mix. Mate, of that group, who for you is your number one and why?
Yeah, look, it's going to come as no shock to anyone that it's Saquon. There are a lot of ranking systems out there that I've seen actually put him either second or third. But this is the problem I have with some people is like I feel like that they look at old stats and it says, oh, there hasn't been a repeat number one in, God knows how many years. So it's like I have to rank someone else there. But it's like that doesn't mean you have to then rank the guy that you think is going to be first, not first. Like the idea is that, yes, if you were to take the field against Saquon, you could make a good case that someone else is going to do it. It doesn't mean you then don't rank that guy first because you don't know who that guy is going to be. Like you could be picking the guy that ends up running back 10 as your running back 1. Like it's kind of stupid. I understand it. I understand the idea of wanting to take a shot on a guy and wanting to seem cool if they all of a sudden hit. But to me, Saquon's just the clear lead. Like I had him absurdly high last year when he was getting taken anywhere between running back 8 and 10, and nothing has changed for this guy. He's just on an amazing offense that has the best, if not at least top 3 offensive line in the league. That's the huge difference that you saw from the Giants earlier. Like this guy just runs through these fucking plane-sized holes. And the fact is he's got talent. You even saw DeAndre Swift the year before. He was just getting hit like 7 yards behind the offensive line because they were just creating all these opportunities for him. The problem was he wasn't quite talented enough to do more with it. Whereas Saquon gets in these holes and he's so talented that he turns a fucking 7-yarder into a 70-yarder and he's just gone. So this guy is a freak. He even though there's the tush push, and that's the only reason that people were trying to like go against me last year was, Jalen take 15 touchdowns off him. Who gives a shit? Saquon was getting like 2 or 3 touchdowns a year for the bloody Giants. Well, how many did he have last year? He had so many because he was able to actually take the 10-yarders and the 12-yarders and actually ram it down and score as well. So just because Hurts is taking a few doesn't mean that Saquon isn't going to be dominant again. He's going to be having 100-plus yard games like it's nothing, and I just think it's an absolute no-brainer to rank him number 1.
Yeah, look, and I agree with you. NFL.com agree with you. Fantasy Pros and ESPN both had him at 2 in favor of Bijan Robinson. I invested quite heavily in Bijan last year and was very happy with how he turned out. And there seems to be just a lot of goodwill for him out there. We each had Bijan in our top 3, paired with Jahmyr Gibbs. This next handful is where it gets fun because you get a rookie in there, you get one of the great touchdown scorers last year, you get a guy who's barely on the field but was far and away the number 1 player in all of fantasy the year before. And that's Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty. We talked about Ashton Genty through the rookies episode, so probably isn't a heap of reason to just trawl over him again. He is definitely going to be evidence of you don't need the team to be super successful for the running back to have volume and be a worthwhile fantasy asset. But is it with McCaffrey and Henry? Is this one where you kind of feel like, it's just a matter of favorite flavor? There's really not a huge difference between who you take where, or are you really on a hill with one of them?
I've got Henry in front just because I think it's safer, honestly. And you could actually make the case to me that there is reason for even more positive touchdown regression, which is kind of insane. Like, given how many touchdowns he had last year, but you look at how many touchdowns Lamar had in the air like that, there's actual reason to believe that there could actually be more. Like, I don't believe there's going to be less, put it that way. Like, there's just going to be still so many opportunities for Derrick Henry. And do you know what's funny? Like, I brought up last year when I liked him that, hey, the Baltimore Ravens have like the 25th ranked O-line, so it doesn't seem great, but compared to what they were dealing with at the time, it was such an upgrade. If you actually look at a lot of the stats, by the end of the year, they were basically getting ranked 5th or 6th in a lot of metrics for the O-line. So their O-line just got better as the season went, which is kind of what I brought up too, that I just felt like, you know, Harbaugh was just going to work it out. Like, I felt like this Ravens team was just never going to have a bad O-line. They were just going to be able to work it out with the guys they had. And so with that knowledge going into this year, that offensive line has probably got even better from last year. And the fact that there could be positive touchdown regression, I just can't have King Henry not there. Like, he's 4 for me. I had CMC just in front of Genty. After our last chat, I think I said I would take Genty just, but I've kind of thought about it more, and I just think the upside for CMC is just too great. And it's really the problem with ranking CMC is, like, you're either going to be too low or too high in a way. It's like if he stays on the field for all 17 games, you're going to be too low because he's probably going to be running back one because he's just an absolute freak. But if he gets injured for half the year, then you're going to be too high. So it's a really hard one to rank with CMC. But I definitely have Henry in front of all three, though, like of the three. And then I have CMC slightly in front of Genty at this stage.
Yeah, and look, I pretty well mirrored that. I think Gianti and McCaffrey can sort of, go whichever way. But from 7, so we've gone through 6 there. At 7, you and I have both stuck our necks out for a particular head at number 7. You've gone for running back from over in Cincinnati. What's got you so positive about Chase Brown?
I have, and it surprises me. Like, I've seen a lot of top 12 rankings, and he's not in there. I saw this consensus around 13 or 14, and I just think it's just ridiculously too low for that offense. Again, you could almost say there's positive regression coming on the ground. Like, you saw how many freaking touchdowns Burrow threw. Yes, he's going to do it again because that's just who the Bengals are. But you look again, their defense really didn't get much better. They are going to struggle on that side again this year. There's just going to be so many more touchdown opportunities this year. And the fact is, Chase Brown is going to have an entire year of being the lead back. You look at last year, and he was sort of dealing with being, splitting the snaps with Zach Moss and everything. Whereas Zach Moss, to me, the fact that they brought him back but didn't draft anyone, or they draft someone in like the 5th round, to me, that was a positive sign of what they believe Chase Brown is, because I believe if they felt like they really needed to get him back into a split backfield, they would have gone and drafted someone, because I just think at this stage Zach Moss just isn't it. They brought him back because they knew that he knew the system and that he could be a backup to Chase Brown now. But to me, he is the bona fide starter until there's an injury. And the fact is, you're getting him at an absolute discount right now in ADP, I believe, because this offense is too good. He was a freak down the stretch. Like when he got that starting job for the last, say, 7 weeks, I believe he was running back 2 or 3 down that stretch. Like, he was unbelievable. He was catching so many passes. That's the good thing, that even if this defense sucks, he's a good pass catcher, so it doesn't mean he's going to get game scripted out. There is just so many reasons for me to be bullish on this guy going forward, because you even saw Joe Mixon a couple of years ago on the same offense. He didn't have anywhere near the juice that Chase Brown did, but he was a perennial like sort of running back 5 to running back 10 finisher every single year just because of the volume. And I think this team wants to have a guy with volume, and I think Zach Moss is just going to be the backup. So, yeah, I just think there's huge opportunity for this guy if he's getting drafted around ADP of running back 13, 14. I just think it's too low.
Yeah, see, I was going to sing practically the same songs for my number 7, who's Kyron Williams. I've been doing this little segment called Matty Minute in the car for the last 2 weeks, and I featured a Kyron Williams little rant in one of those to say, well, this is a guy too who's in a similar position. They're a great offense, and he just continued to steamroll his way into the end zone last year. I think his longest run on the season was like 30 yards, but every time they got close, they just hand it to him. He got all the volume. I think he had something like 75% snap share. I'll get Kev to remind me of that one. Actually, he'll know for sure. And the only difference really is that he didn't have a lot of pass catching, but didn't really need it because he was getting it done other ways. And I'm happy just to get back on that hill, plant my flag back up there. And I think after last year, I said it on that little video too, bring in reinforcements with me, because I feel like this is just rinse and repeat there. And if anything, I actually think they've improved their receiving core, which will help Kyron a little bit, I think, as well. I think Devontae Adams at this stage of his career is an upgrade from Cooper Kupp, so that should just free things up a little bit. So for both of us, sticking our necks to the guy at 7, where for Chase Brown, he's getting consensus ranked by the majors at about 13 or 14. Kyron Williams at about 10. We're both sticking our neck out considerably for our guys. And maybe that's where these ones are headed. If things stay where they are, they might be my guys.
I think so. That's all the early indications are. Like, I don't imagine Brown all of a sudden being 7. So I can't imagine that I'm not higher than consensus when it's draft time. So, yeah, like I said, things can change, but I don't know if they're going to change drastically. I'm high on Kyron too, to be honest. I've got him at 8, right behind Chase Brown. So I'm actually slightly high. That's the moment I'm into.
Yeah. I knew I wasn't going to get a water bet out of you for Kyron Williams this year, mate. There are some possible ones later down, but the next couple to round out that top 10, because Chase Brown and Kyron Williams, they sort of bring us the way we've got them ranked into about sort of 7 and 8. Devon Archain and Josh Jacobs, I think, rightly fit into that realm, that sort of part of the ranking, and we're probably just a little cooler than the majors on them, just because we've got these other little heads up in front. But then the next one, who I was super interesting, was that you've put your neck out a little bit for Kenneth Walker. Got him ranked at 11. I've got him at 16, so I'm a little cooler than consensus. This is the earliest one that we've got the biggest disparity on. Give me your case for Kenneth Walker.
Now, I'll say with this one, it's not something that I'm looking at and going, yeah, look, this is going to stick all the way. I probably need to do a little bit more research into it. It was more of a gut feel on our initial rankings where I thought, you know, there's always guys each year that I look at and I go, man, on film and on the eye test, I think these guys are just ultra talented. And I always look back at Kenneth Walker and I just think he's this unrealised talent. And I feel like he's just been bitten by the injury, luck on the bad side so often, like during his career. And I look at him and he goes to string 2 or 3 games together and you go, man, this guy is a top 5 talent and he just can't stay on the field. And the Seahawks have upgraded their offensive line. That's often something I look for. But I just think with this guy's talent, I just think if this guy can stay on the field a bit longer and string more games together than he's done in the rest of his career, I just think there's reason for upside. It was just, I was looking at guys around this range and I thought, who is the guy that I think would take that leap? Like someone that I just think has been a bit unlucky so far in their career, and they could take that leap up, and has got the reason with the O-line upgrade of Seattle. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. They've obviously got rid of DK. Sam Darnold coming in doesn't really give me a whole lot of thought that they're going to be passing the ball a shitload. So I really do think they're going to run the ball a lot, and that's why I've just got a feeling that I want to take an upside shot on a guy like Walker, because look, hey, if he goes out and gets injured, then so be it. I'll hit the waiver wire, whatever. But I really, in that range, want to be taking a shot on someone that I really believe could jump into that top 5. And I think he's got the talent for it and the situation. So, I just really wanted to rank him a bit higher. Look, could things change and I go a little bit cooler on him later? If you get some Charbonnet chat in the preseason or something like that, there is always the chance that you could talk me out of this one. It's just my gut feeling early that I think Kenneth Walker could be in for a big season if he could just get a bit more luck in the injury front.
So you and I have this 3-pack of running backs there who we've got about the same sort of number, but we've just mixed those 4 or 5 names around. And you've kind of got Kenneth Walker on the high end of that. I've kind of got him on the low end of it. So it'll be interesting to see how that one works out as the preseason continues. But I like that you've kind of got an early indication that things look all right. He could be someone you pick up with a lot of value in drafts. First guy we really kind of don't meet the majors on, and we're going backwards. We're saying majors are probably a bit high, is Jonathan Taylor. He's been ranked everywhere on the majors at about 10, and we've got him between us at I've got him at 15, you got him at 13. Why are you a little lower? Because I can share why I am.
So you reckon you and I have just this has kind of been the one that we've kind of nailed for 3 straight years. Ever since that running back 1 year where it just absolutely went fucking mental, every year you and I, it feels like, have been sort of on the lower side of him, and it's basically worked out every single year. It's just one of these ones where I think people still think of that year and they just think this guy's got this ridiculous upside, and I don't agree, because that year he was just needed in the passing game, and I don't know, that there doesn't seem to be that upside to him anymore. They've got 2 quarterbacks that really aren't amazing passers. They don't really dump off to the running back. The way that the Colts run, they just don't seem to use him in that way anymore. It's not going to be an amazing offense. He's not going to get 22 touchdowns or something out on the ground.
It was about that, yeah. It was just constant. I think he had 4 against the Bills or something one day, 5 maybe. It was just, it was absurd. It was unrepeatable is our point.
It's just a team that's going to be down a lot, but they still don't use him in the passing game. It's just really, really weird. I have no trust in their quarterback situation. Their O-line used to be amazing, and now it's kind of just middle of the pack. Like, it's not a situation I'm looking at as just amazing, and so it's hard for me to ever take him at ADP because he always gets a bump for whatever reason, just because of the talent and the reason, like, obviously seeing that season happen 4 seasons ago. No one can get it out of their head. So I'm just not as high on him. Like, look, I'm not leaving him for dead. I've got him at 13. That just means I'm probably not going to be drafting him because he's going to be going higher than that. But I don't think he's terrible. I just never seem to like him in his ADP.
No, and I think we're a bit the same with Bucky Irving too, because we've essentially placed Jonathan Taylor about 3 spots lower than the majors. We've done the same with Bucky Irving, where he's kind of about 8-ish, 9-ish, and we've got him sort of 11, 12, right? So, and to me, that's just Rashad White was a little in and out of the lineup at the back end of last year. Bucky Irving was a beneficiary of that. I don't think that repeats. He just kind of had this beautiful sort of phantom volume that won't return. So that was what drove me there.
I'm going to have 0 Bucky. That's probably my biggest flag plant right now. And it's got nothing to do with the talent. Like, I had the guy on like 4 different teams at the end of last year. It was amazing. But the price of him, like, it's Bucky mania at the moment. Like, everyone just adores this guy. And I'm like, Did Rashad White just go away? Like, I get that he's more talented than Rashad White, but they still use him a lot. Like, and he's a great pass catcher, and there's just so many reasons to believe that Rashad White's still going to be on the field. I don't see that going away. And like, look, I like the Bucks of Baker and everything. Obviously, Godwin, we need to see what's going on with him, but I still don't look at the Bucks as this like ridiculous offense. Yes, they're better than average, but I don't know. I just think everyone thinks this team's going to score like 5 touchdowns a game and he's just going to be a huge part of it. And I don't know. I've just got my concerns that it's more of a share than people who are drafting him in the top 10 want to believe.
Oh, Baker's about to throw 550 times as well. So I just don't think that the pie is big enough to start with for Bucky to have enough volume to sustain that kind of output before you include how that backfield gets split. So to me, it was just a maths problem. So, and it was pretty easy to solve.
Yeah, I'll give him.
The other running back that I saw that you and I have done this as well. We've both done this in the past where we've seen Aaron Jones kind of get like left for dead, and he's getting ranked by the major sites outside the top 25. Outside the top 25, Tate. And my head, it hasn't been super well this week. I've had a lot of headaches, but this was a problem I just couldn't solve. Why there's no love for Aaron Jones? You and I have him ranked sort of, I've gone a bit higher. I've got him at 17, but you got him at 20. We're so much more optimistic. What's your reasons for that?
Well, yeah, like he's still the starter. He's on an offense that I think I have a lot of confidence in. Like, I guess people look at a rookie, they are, so I say rookie, he may as well be red shirt rookie. Right. I have a lot of. I've never talked about a coach more than KOC on podcasts more in my life. I just think he's just going to turn whoever plays quarterback there into a stud. Look what he just did with Donald. This offense just has too many pieces that they're going to move the ball. They were one of the teams that did the most with their offensive line. Like, their offensive line got a huge boost, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball very, very well. Like Jordan Mason going there, he was my only little bit of a concern because I think he's a better backup to who they had. But I've also said that Aaron Jones has got it done in the past. Yes, he was younger with the Packers, but he's got it done by only getting 55 or 60% of the snaps in the past. So I still think even if you told me right now he's only getting 55 to 60%, I still would have him higher than consensus right now because I just feel like with the O-line upgrades, with this offense, I believe is going to be very, very good again. I only see optimism for Jones. Like, he would have to fall off a complete cliff. Like, he would have to suddenly be usurped as the running back 1 by Mason for me to actually look at this and go, oh, it's not a great draft pick. I can only really see upside of where he's going in ADP right now. So, yes, you got him at 17. I've got him at 20, which is still way higher than consensus. So, you know, you and I could be battling for him around that range because I just think he's one of these guys that's getting left for dead. He kind of reminds me of like what they do with James Conner a lot, where no one knows where to rank him. He don't see him as a sexy pick, and then all of a sudden he gets picked in somewhere in the 20s off a draft board, and then all of a sudden someone's got like the running back 13 or something on their team that's just constantly producing for their team. It might not be running back one numbers. It might not be getting you 20 points a week, but it's a guy getting you somewhere between 10 and 15 every single week. Then you've got that in the later rounds. I just think it could be a steal.
Beautiful segue on that too, because like we're in alignment with the majors on James Conner, but we've got Jones and Conner ranked at like 19 and 20 in our consensus rank. And I think these are two guys who they're just going to outproduce that. Because, like, do we trust Alvin Kamara is going to outproduce that? Maybe. Chuba Hubbard? Oh, God. Like, the guys in that area, like, there's David Montgomery's in that area. Like, tell me that Aaron Jones is going to outproduce those guys. James Conner is just going to outproduce those guys. It's a volume proposition. They're just going to outproduce them.
Yep. I 100% agree. And like I said, if it was a terrible offense or something, I could maybe get my head around it. But there's so much reason for optimism with the Vikings and the offensive line. And you could just say a rookie quarterback, if anything, that means they could just run the ball more. I don't know. I don't really see a downside for him there. Like I said, the only downside would be that suddenly he just doesn't have it anymore because of his age. But we just haven't seen that as much recently with these running backs. Like, you normally have a bigger sign that they're completely falling off a cliff than them just all of a sudden looking good one year and then completely nothing the next year. Don't get me wrong, that used to happen for a while, but you're looking at some of these guys like your Henrys and stuff, like they are just playing into their like early 30s, like they're still in thetheir 20s still. Like it's not a complete fall off anymore like it used to be.
The few that it's happened to were like Zeke kind of just stopped being able to run. Dalvin Cook stopped being able to run. Yeah. Aaron Jones can still run.
Yeah, I'm confident that he. Yeah. I would almost guarantee that unless he got played only half the games or something, I could almost guarantee he beats his ADP this year.
I can't rank for that though. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't rank for that either, which I think is the right way to go. You just got to kind of assume, well, let's just say this guy's going to be available pretty well how we expect. Yeah. Mate, can I indulge you just on one before we leave running back? Because I ranked right down to in the 50s. And there's this one guy who the major sites have at 35 that I found it hard to level with. And he's one of my loves. In fact, shout out Manjot. It's Javonte Williams, who's gone to the Dallas Cowboys, taken up a role that was left wide open by Rico Dowdle, who he was 1,000-yard rusher last year. And it's not like Javonte isn't going to be capable of doing that sort of thing with a bit of volume. There's nobody else in that backfield. He's got, I don't know, the ghost of Miles Sanders has turned up there, and they drafted some rookie, Jordan Blue, I think his name is. But it's just that backfield has never been a three-headed monster. He just left one. And I just kind of felt like 35 was way too low. I might have put him too high at 25, but when I was looking at what 1,000 yards and sort of 6 touchdowns get you, it puts you around there.
No, I'm with you. I was less on him when we did a couple episodes ago, but the draft hadn't happened yet, and my assumption was that they were going to get someone. And it really didn't. Like, they just went late. And, like, Rico Dowdle is the best case. Like, I talked about him last year as I thought he was a good value draft because I just felt like he was getting all the work, and wasn't going to take him much to beat out who was already there. And that's the same with Javonte again. He's 2 years removed from that injury. Yes, he didn't look great last year when everyone thought he was going to be, but I don't think he has to be great. Like, I think he's getting enough volume on this Cowboys team that I think is going to be a very good offense again. I'm with you. He's another one that if he's getting somewhere ranked around the 40s or something, I don't see a world where he doesn't beat that. Like, I think it's almost impossible. It would have to be, again, him sort of succumbing to an injury or them finding someone in the free agent. Like, it would have to be just something from the outside affecting him that if he goes in as the starter in week 1, there's no way he doesn't beat that ADP.
Yeah. Who's beating him out of that role? But this is one of those ones where I think Aaron Jones and Javonte were, to me, if you went 0 RB in your first 3 rounds, maybe even 4 rounds, bang, bang, I reckon you might find you've got 2 very capable starters, not just flex considerations, actual starters with how things are in the ranking system at the moment, in the world of rankings, just from my early thin slice of how running backs looking. So that's all I wanted to share on running back. Did you have anyone else you just wanted to bring up real quick before we run away and hit the receivers?
Yeah, I'll just say one. And I know you'll hate this one. It's probably good because you and I have been kind of, simpatico so far. But I actually think Brian Robinson's a bit of a ridiculous value this year, only because that Washington team is just going from strength to strength. They actually made their offensive line better. Eckler's just obviously get a year older. I'm not saying that Eckler's just completely toast or he's gone, but I just think there's an opportunity there for Brian Robinson. He kind of just gets ranked like almost for dead. And I get it. He got shot. I've been told that by Matty C a lot.
He never got unshot. That's the thing.
That he was playing like a guy that still had a bullet in his leg, and he probably did. But I just think there's too much value there for him. I think there's a chance he has a ridiculous amount of touchdowns this year just because, yes, they've got a quarterback in Jaden Daniels that can take them, but I just think this offense is actually going to hum this year with a second-year Jaden Daniels, and it's only going to open up more opportunities for him. So I just think from a volume standpoint and the touchdown upside, I just think they're going to want to lean on him a little bit more than Eckler this year. They obviously got a lot of value out of Eckler because they got him for basically nothing. So he's still going to be involved, but I just think that Brian Robinson could be a bit of a steal at where he's going at the moment.
Yeah, and see, I think I looked at my ranking and I went, Taylor's going to bring this up because you got him sort of in the mid-20s thereabouts, like 22-ish.
22, yeah.
I'm well lower than that. You're a good handful above ADP across the big sites. I'm exactly the same amount below.
Could be it could be water betting
this could be. This has been one of these ones where we've always been disparate on this. You've always liked Brian Robinson more than me. I've always disliked him more than you. And I am still willing to believe that Austin Eckler is going to eat up enough volume in there to be a pest to Brian Robinson. They've never given it to him. And if they ever were, when better than last year when they just had the ghost of Austin Eckler injured for half of it. And as soon as Eckler's fine, they're like, we need to get Eckler back in there and we need to give him plenty of volume. And it just eroded so much of the value that people think that Brian Robinson is every year. So I'm going biblical here, Tay. Doubting Thomas here, mate. If I don't see, I can't believe. So if Brian Robinson, I don't see him with the lion's share of this backfield and making something of it, then you're just never going to get me to believe, mate.
I actually think Eckler might be a value too. I know that's crazy to take a thing of both of them, but I think it's more to do with just that offense. We came into last year not knowing exactly what we were getting out of Daniels and just thinking this is going to be the same old Commanders. So we were kind of almost ranking both of them like it was basically they're sharing this pie that we don't even know what it is. Whereas I think the pie could be very fruitful this year. I just think if they're getting even stronger, you could actually see both of them being a draft day value to me. I'm not even saying Eckler's fully getting left for dead. I just think if Brian Robinson's the lead of that, then I think he's going to be easily a value. But if Eckler's getting completely left for dead in the 40s or 50s or whatever, then I think he could be too.
So at the moment, the majors have him Brian Robinson 29, Austin Eckler 41.
Yeah.
So in that world, give me the Austin Eckler bit and I'll take 50% of that volume for that backfield for such a discount. And you'll say, I'll probably take the Brian Robinson end of it, and I'll expect he'll still return higher, and that Austin Eckler won't eat up so much of the volume, and one of us will be happy, and the other will be less happy. So
there you go.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I reckon you'd make an excellent running back.
Yeah, it'd be the fridge, I think.
Brilliant minds.
These are great against Falcons.
And then Carolina's poor secondary.
Questionable humor.
You are a sour loser who's still an amazing football player.
I'm shrugging that shit off and finishing the game.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Let's dive across to wide receiver because I reckon wide receiver is the funnest position in fantasy football. It's so stable in a lot of ways that a lot of the guys who get drafted in that top 15 return top 15 value, which is great. It's just about where in that 15 they wind up because we do see the order which they come up get jimmied around a little bit. What I like about it this year is there's really very little doubt that people think Jamar Chase is going to be number one. He just had touchdowns and yards everywhere. God, there was a game late last year where just his 11 receptions and 3 touchdowns is worth 29 points. And that's before he even threw in the 260 yards he had. It was, oh my God, the guy's a monster. And then we also throw Justin Jefferson right in at the top there. The next 4 guys are where it gets funny. They are some consensus of CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, and Amon-Ra. And then you even get the old A.J. Brown conversation in there. But, mate, you've found a 5th guy to run into that. And I need to ask you, how does Nico Collins fit into a top 5 fantasy wide receiver conversation?
Well, I was going to say, everyone you just brought up, I actually had Nico in front of all of them.
This is it. This is why I need you to describe this for me, because I don't doubt Nico is great, and I've got him at 7, I guess. But I need to learn here. I need to believe.
Again, this is another eye test one from me, and for anyone who listened to me last year, this isn't going to be any new news. Like this is kind of me rolling over what I saw from him last year. And again, you could say, hey, look, Stroud didn't have a great year last year, but if anything, that gives me more reason to believe in Nico this year, because I'm like, look, everything he did was with kind of Stroud on a bit of a second-year syndrome, and Nico was also doing what he was doing with a Stephon Diggs, who was actually playing incredibly well himself. Like, he was kind of taking some of that share away from Nico, and so Nico was kind of having to do all these massive plays to get himself there. But I actually think with essentially Diggs going and then basically having to put rookies in there, I just think he's going to be such a volume threat. Like, I think he's going to have big plays and he's going to be a volume receiver for Stroud. And if Stroud just takes, he doesn't need to be rookie Stroud. If he just takes a 15-20% lift from last year, I just think there's a huge opportunity that Nico's an absolute beast this year. I watch him week to week and I don't see a difference between him and guys like CeeDee Lamb. Like, he is a freak. Like, he is amazing. He gets open. He also was injured for about 5 weeks last year in the middle of the season. There was a point where at the end of his coming back from his injury, he was still wide receiver 5 or something, wide receiver 5 or 6, and he had been out for half the season. It was insane. Like, his numbers at the start of last year, I'll admit, I made a huge play to trade for him in a lot of leagues in the middle of last year. I do think I was a little disappointed how it finished, but that whole team just fell apart at the end of the year. Like, Stroud obviously wasn't who he was, and, with all the injuries and everything, it just kind of fell apart for the team. But I think they could really hit the ground running this year, and what I've seen out of Nico Collins on the field, I've got no reason to believe why he can't finish as a top 5 wide receiver this year if Stroud is just anything close to what he was in his rookie year.
I would be super happy if he did it. You know how some years I'm like, fucking Taylor doesn't know what he's talking about. I'd be so happy if this comes off. And I mean, I know we're super early and there's a lot of water going to the bridge in the preseason. But if this holds, because you've got the confidence in it and it comes off, I'm going to be so fucking impressed with you, mate. I mean, every year you do something, or multiple things sometimes too, that are just so fucking impressive. But this would be up there.
Yep. Like I said, I was so into him last year. It's just, I didn't see, even though it didn't fully work out, I kind of feel like because it didn't fully work out in the last year is why he's a value now to me. Like, if he absolutely destroyed the end of last year, we would be sitting here probably with him ranked 4. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. It's like you have to actually see some value, and there has to be a reason for the value, and that's what I think it was. Is yes, it wasn't perfect for him at the end of last year, but that's why I believe that he's going to be at a good range for me to draft this year.
Yeah, and I guess I'm on market. He's getting ranked across the majors between sort of 8 and 9. I've got him at 9. I'll pull it up a spot. I think that's probably fair. But you and I have been on this bandwagon, I think, every year since forever. Do you remember that year that people were drafting Chris Godwin 10 spots ahead of Mike Evans, and Mike Evans pulled all our pants down? I have learned from that, and I've got Mike Evans ranked at 7, like I said before. That is 10 spots higher than the major sites. Mate, it's all I could do to take the spirit stick off of you, because you had to break 6 places higher at 11. And, mate, you and I both believe. Why do you suppose, I want to turn this one around, why do you suppose the majors don't like Mike Evans? I know why we like him. We've got 11 years of data.
It's like with the NBA voting for the MVP, it's voter fatigue. There seems to be fatigue with Mike Evans every single year. It's just like, he couldn't really be in a better position with this Bucks offense, and, Baker obviously looking better every single year with it. It's like he's utilized, this Baker Evans stack looks amazing. Yeah. But for whatever reason, just because he gets a bit older, and I don't know if it's his age, it's like everyone thinks he's 40. There's something about Mike Evans where, I've got him in some dynasties, right? And I always look at it and I go, well, I'm never ever going to trade Mike Evans because his value to my team is far bigger than his trade value. For whatever reason, he just gets left for dead in drafts, and people just don't see him as this amazing asset, but then he just finishes in the top 10 to 12 every single year.
Every single year.
It's the only year he kind of went shit was like Brady's bloody renaissance, where yes, he threw a million times, but he had no accuracy and he just couldn't hit Evans for any kind of like consistency. But outside of that, like 1 year, he's just been phenomenal. So yeah, he's just Mr. Consistent. I don't know why you would draft him there. There's absolutely no risk to it because, outside of an injury, there is no possible way that he finishes lower than where he's going. So, again, you're drafting him at his absolute floor. So, yeah, I couldn't get as high as you, but based off ADP right now, I'm still going to be absurdly high, and I'm going to have him at a lot of places.
I just can't get the lowness of the major ranks because I'm of the opinion that even if Chris Godwin is back, he doesn't look the same, right? I mean, it'd be difficult for him injury. And then the other weapons in that offense, it's nice that they got Igbuka, who they drafted, and Jalen McMillan another year in the system. We liked him as a rookie last year, but there's kind of no other depth there. And what are you looking at Kate Otten to keep up and save the day? Mike Evans got 1,000 yards in 11 games last year. 11 games! When we talk about 1,000 yards like that's a really good, strong receiver. That over 17 games, that's a ridiculous pace. I mean, you're talking 1,700 yards. He had 12 touchdowns or 13 touchdowns in that stretch too. Now you're starting to talk like that's 19, 20 touchdowns. Oh, my God. And I don't think the rate Baker's throwing is going to slow down. We've talked about this for the last 2 years, that the one thing that Mike Evans has really got going for him is that he is a big down-the-field target. He'll lead the league in rebounds every year, being 6'5" and enormous. And Baker's actually got a good arm to get it down there. And they even in the red zone. That works in the red zone too because he's so big.
That was my biggest miss is when we did that thing with Manjot with Godwin and Evans, there was all this data about how Baker's like actually better because that was the thing, right? When Baker came in, we didn't know exactly how it was going to look. He was in a bloody quarterback battle to even start, and like
Kyle Trask.
I know.
Who is that?
Exactly, and it was like it made sense generally to take the possession receiver in that situation with. Almost like Baker may as well been a rookie at that stage. Like it just felt like it was going to be one of these guys that didn't air it out. But when you actually looked into the data, it actually showed that Baker's got a far better accuracy on his deep ball than he does with his intermediate routes. So it actually made sense that a guy like Mike Evans would have thrived with Baker than that. So that ever since then, I have just gone, you know what? Me and you both learned our lesson, and we have both decided. Looked at the data and said, "There's a reason why this happened." And ever since then, like we've basically just bought in, and it's been a complete win ever since because Baker and Mike Evans just work perfectly. They complement each other.
I think we're also tainted by the Odell Beckham Sr. Videos of Baker just overthrowing and missing Odell Beckham Jr. I think we were victims of that too, of siding with Odell instead of siding with Baker, which, I mean, look, if anyone in the room can really look at each other and say that they weren't guilty of that, that man is a liar. So
it's a bold-faced liar.
Sorry, the next couple of wide receivers I wanted to bring up, that was super interesting because we're a little low on Drake London compared to the rankers, the big ranking sites. They've sort of got him on the edge of the top 10, but in the top 10, and we're a bit cooler than that. We've got him on the outside. This is really, to me, it was just a question of, I don't question there's going to be volume there. I just think the running game is going to eat more of it and there'll be less for the receivers. So I've just got to pull London down a little bit. How did you get to London? You've got him outside your top 10 as well.
So I was thirdly low on him last year because I just didn't think the Kirk Cousins thing was going to work. And look, I was right on that. I think everyone lost their minds and thought he was going to be the savior for that offense. And it was like a 38-year-old coming off an Achilles tear. It just didn't make any sense to me. But this time I've kind of ended up a bit lower than consensus, but I haven't got anywhere near as low. Like I've got him at 14 at the moment. I love the talent. I think he's an amazing receiver. He's another one like I brought up with Bijan that had ridiculous stats with Penix at the end of last year. Very small sample size. I couldn't just base like a ranking on that by itself, but there is reason for optimism. So this is one of these ones where because you're basically getting, like I said, he's not a rookie, but it feels like he is because he's getting his first like proper year in belt, Penix. I just feel like I can't rank a guy with a quarterback like that high yet, but it's one that I'm leaving open to be wrong about, if that makes sense, because if Penix is better than we think and it's anything like it was at the end of last year, then this could be one that actually does sort of, jump off the page and end up beating his ADP by a bit, because he is very talented, and if this offense is good and it doesn't all just go to Bijan on the ground, there is an opportunity for London to have a very good year. I still like guys like Darnell Mooney in that offense, though, like for a lot better value, and it's just hard sometimes for me to fully buy in on London when the problem is, like, even if this, say, passing game was great, because of a guy like Mooney, sometimes it just doesn't go to London. It's like he's definitely their one, but for whatever reason, there just seems to be these weird games where it just doesn't go to him. It just goes elsewhere. So if that happens, you're just going to be frustrated as an owner and someone had drafted him at the edge of the top 10. So I probably won't draft him a lot, but I'm happy to be wrong, because I've got more optimism in him this year than I did last year.
Yeah, I don't think he keeps up the pace of what he was doing in the back end of last year, because I've got other reasons for that. And the only tight end that I've really got any opinion on in that's different to consensus is really that I just think Kyle Pitts is going to be a slightly more contributing year for him. And again, that just kind of eats more out of the London pie. But I'm willing to say that London is still going to be quite a good receiver. And the problem I've got, though, is that pretty well every time an opportunity come up to draft him is going to be there, I'm going to be faced with a guy like him or Davante Adams. And I'm just going to go, give me Davante. And this is where I want to dive across to talk about him, because you and I are both higher than consensus on him. He's getting ranked around 17 across the major sites, and you and I have got him at 14 and 12, Tate. You've got him at 12. But we're, I think, saying here, we believe Stafford can supply 2 top 15 wide receivers.
No, I think he can supply two top 12 receivers, obviously. And he's going to be the thing that probably stops me from getting much Puka, because obviously I'm probably not going to want to have both of them on the same team. So my bold call, and I am probably going to go on G'day Gridiron and probably bring this up at some stages, I think Davante Adams is going to lead the league in touchdowns this year. I just think it's this perfect storm of, like, Davante just sort of hasn't been in the right situations the last couple of years. Yes, he got his fucking band crush Aaron Rodgers at the end of last year, but you actually saw him start to pop off with them when the games kind of didn't matter. But I think this situation with Stafford is just perfect for him. He's got Puka there to just take the pressure off him as well. It's not like everyone's going to send all their coverages to Adams, because you've got Puka there who's just going to probably have 10, 11, 12 receptions in a game. And that's why, even though I'm saying I think Adams has far more touchdowns than Puka, I have Puka ranked higher than him, because week to week he's just going to have way more volume than Adams is, I believe. But I just think the situation, like, Puka's never been this dominator in the red zone. Like, you even saw when he was taking over from Kupp would still have more touchdowns than him. I think that's going to happen with Adams. I think Adams is a better route runner and just an overall better player at this stage of the career than Kupp. So I just think you're going to have this amazing target there in the red zone. I think this offense is going to move very well. And I think Stafford's going to love having a route runner like Adams. I think it's a marriage made in heaven, honestly. And I can see both of these guys finishing in the top 12, and I can see this Rams offense really humming.
The reason I'm in on it, though, too, is, like, do you remember the last time Davante Adams had a good quarterback who wasn't into ayahuasca and darkness retreats? Like, I do. And they were delicious days. Delicious. Top 5 all the way. So do I expect that for Davante? Well, no. But do I think Davante's all of a sudden now covered in cobwebs, rust, and you need an oil can like the Tin Man to get him going? No. So I've got a lot of trust in Davante. I'll probably still own a ton of him. A guy I don't think either you or I are going to own much of at all, though, is Lad McConkey. All of a sudden in the offseason, the major rankers are so convinced he's going to be on the edge of the top 10. I've got NFL.com with him at 9, Fantasy Pros at 11, ESPN maybe a little bit more sensibly have got him at 17. That's the split between where you and I have him at 19 and 15, respectively, Tay. You've got him at 15, so you've got a little bit more belief in him than me. But what's the concern with the LA offense that we've got that NFL and Fantasy Pros don't seem to have? What's shaking the plates for you?
It's just still a run-first offense. It's just I'm never going to be confident that they're going to be passing enough in each game. It's just like because I feel like this team will actually be pretty good this year. Like I just think year 2 at Harbaugh, I think they're actually going to go from strength to strength. Their offensive line's getting better. I just think they're going to be able to run the ball with obviously drafting Hampton early. I just think that's going to be a huge part of their game plan. And I don't know, when I look at McConkey, like don't get me wrong, crisp route runner, like he actually looks very, very good, especially in his rookie. But there's something about him that doesn't strike me as this dominating wide receiver one. Like I feel like he's not like this alpha that I think is even gonna like you said, rattle the plates if he's not getting the targets game to game. I think he's gonna be fine. He's just gonna be one of these guys that's, he's gonna pop off and have like a game where he's 10 for 115 or something. Yeah. But then there's going to be a game where they lead 14-0 early and they're just going to run the ball, and you're all of a sudden going to see Lad McConkey somehow be 2 for 35, and you're going to be the owner's going to wonder why they drafted this guy so high. But it's not so much that he had a bad game that week. It's just that they didn't need him. And that's my concern with this Chargers team. Like, I just don't know if I have a lot of confidence in any receiver for them. If there was any confidence, it would be in McConkey. But that I just can't draft him at the edge of the top 10. There's just too many other guys I like better.
Yeah, and this is, I think, why sort of between that middling to lower end wide receiver 2 was kind of where I'd feel more comfortable with him in that range. Again, I think this is going to be one of those things where if he's in that range, though, there's guys who I'm probably going to like more who are in that area, and I'm probably going to wind up not owning much of him at all. But I feel like we're also have the same affliction with Tyreek Hill. You and I, very famously not very keen on Tyreek Hill. We've got him ranked as our wide receiver 19. The major sites still have him as around about a middling wide receiver 2 at 15. And to me, that seems extremely confident.
What are we getting? What are we getting from this Dolphins team in general? They just spent that entire second half of the year dinking and dunking. I don't know if they just felt like that was the best for the offense. They were protecting Tua. They were obviously worried, which I get. But then it's like, what's the point of having a guy like Tua if that's your offense that you're going to run? Yeah. I don't know if McDaniel just was scared and just felt like this team was going nowhere anyway, and they just felt like, all right, let's just protect Tua for the rest of this year and regroup next year. So what do we get? Do we get this like middling offense that just throws to Jonnu Smith every fucking time, or is it actually this like freelance offense that we saw for the 2 years leading up to it that used Hill and used Waddle and got things moving?
It was about speed. It used to be about speed.
I know. I don't know what they went from the quickest.
Let it go.
It's like they aged overnight. It's like they were all 20 years old and all of a sudden we're all 40. It was like they went from the most like prolific offense to the biggest piles of shit you've ever seen. It was just absurd, like that mid-season turn. I know they was Tua injured for that. We understood that issue, but even when he was back, the offense was struggling. They just couldn't do anything. So, yeah, I'm just worried. Like Hill. Generally, when guys get to this age and they show, some drop off, it's rare that it sort of comes back. So I just couldn't rank him any higher than that. I need to see it. Is this one where he could just absolutely obliterate his ADP and what we're saying? Yes, like it's Tyreek Hill. Like anything could happen. You'd need to see a complete shift in the offense from last year for that to happen. So if that happened, then so be it. Like if someone drafts him later at like where he's going and they hit, good for them. But I just don't think it's going to be me this year. I just don't have the confidence in this offense.
I don't even feel confident that it's going to really necessarily be Tua the whole way either. Not even just because of the difficulties he had with the injury, but performance-wise. They've got this nice bloke, Quinn Ewers, who looks like he'll be a serviceable NFL starter. And I can imagine them trying to work a way to get him in there before anything more desperate happens to Tua. So, and I think that just breeds uncertainty. And uncertainty, not always great for fantasy football. Well, we're just about done with wide receiver. There's two guys who I want to talk about, and one of them was a feature of a Matty Minute where I got to talk about Cortland Sutton, who, mate, he had a 1,000-yard season last season. He had more than 10 touchdowns. He even threw one, all with a rookie quarterback. They got to the playoffs, and mate, I've got no reason to think that there's anything but good times coming. There was a whole month where I don't even think Bo Nix knew how to spell receiver. He had a very rough first month in there. So for Cortland Sutton to still produce like that in 3 quarters of the season, to me, gives me a lot more confidence than the rankers. The major rankers got Cortland Sutton around 24. Mate, I put him at 18. I've got a big man crush on him. You've got him at 24, and I don't expect you to move your ranking on him. The other guy I was a bit hotter on was Devonta Smith, who I've got 24. The rankers have him at 28. I've just got confidence that the offense still continues to find him. He finished around there last year. I don't think he's going to blow the doors off, but I think he still needs to be ranked about what we're going to expect out of him. They're kind of the two who I had a bit more conviction on. Tay, we've got a rookie wide receiver in here that you've got a little bit of love for. Talk to me a little bit about Tet McMillan.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm getting a lot of like people not being in on him, and they kind of were in the draft period. Then he went high to the Panthers. Then it feels like what we're getting is like, I don't know, like it's just kind of like Jamar Chase again, where everyone just talks him down, but then he dominates. Like I've got confidence in him because I really think he pairs well with a guy like Bryce Young. Like we're seeing Bryce Young obviously starting to show glimpses of what they actually drafted. But I think a guy like Tet who can win a jump ball, who can be a powerful receiver, I think that's going to work really, really well for Bryce. And I don't know, I've got confidence that Tet's going to be a very good receiver. Do I ever think he's going to be that Jamar Chase, like Jefferson level? No. I really think he's going to be more of a possession receiver, but I think that's good. And that really works in this league. I just think he's super talented. And yes, like we're seeing rookie receivers sort of break out earlier. You don't have to wait till the second year anymore. If they're good enough, they're good enough. They come straight into the league and they do well. And I just think this Panthers offense is this one that I think is going to get a little bit slept on this year. Like you look for offenses that people look at, like, because the thing is, right, everyone can like pick, the top offenses and these ones that they can go after. Where you win fantasy championships is where you pick out this team that everyone barfs at, and if they laugh at you if you say that there's a chance that the offense is going to be good this year, that's where you get your value from. And I actually think the Panthers could be it. Like I think with Hubbard on the ground and Bryce Young starting to show more, offensive line I've always been, pretty happy with. And with a sort of like a volume receiver like Tet, I actually think this offense could move. Do I think it's going to be like top 10? No, but compared to where people are drafting these guys at and where they believe, I think it could have value. So, yeah, I just wanted to have Tet in my top 25 because I've got conviction on him where I think a lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't, mate. I've seen him ranked everywhere. From the high watermark is 31 on ESPN and the low watermark 46 on NFL.com. I'm more with you. I ranked him at 27, but you've got him at 23, sticking your neck right out. Mate, again, this is one where if it comes off the way that you're expecting it should, mate, going to be hard not to be extremely proud of this call because you're calling it in a way that really nobody else in the world of experts are. And to me, there's some real soundness behind the plan for him to get there. So I don't know. I'm on board. I'm not as on board as you, but I mean, we're both far, far further on board than the major rankers. And I like it, mate. I like it.
Yeah, we're normally called major wankers instead of rankers. So, yeah, that can be our tagline.
The other guy who's in that range, though, mate, and who is ranked side by side, actually ranked a little Paquito, a little sneaky spot before Tet, is Jameson Williams. Yep. You are quite a bit hotter than the major rankers on him. I've seen him ranked as high as 25. I've seen him ranked as low as 31, but it is a thin band. Mate, you've got him ranked at 22. How come?
I do. I really just think this is his time. He's one that I've been watching. He's had that many off-field issues. He's been gambling. He's been fucking doing stupid shit. And I've really loved him coming out of college. I honestly thought he was going to be the next star. Obviously, Amon-Ra sort of took that over in the Lions, but I just think there's opportunity for him to fully break out this offense still because even though Amon-Ra is amazing, he's still not that streaky guy that's going to like really break out and have like ridiculous amount of yards. Like he's more still the possession receiver that the Lions need. I honestly think this is the opportunity for Jamo to really stamp and like basically turn this like receiving core into a two-headed monster instead of it being all Amon-Ra and just sort of bits and pieces of everyone else. I really do think they're going to need to shift the offense a little bit. Ben Johnson obviously going away opens up maybe a different way of running things. I always trust the passing game because of how good the offensive line is. Like Jared Goff gets protected so well. And I just think that in general, like their defense is never like quality enough. They're always going to be in shootouts, so there's going to be opportunity there. This is more about I think the pie stays basically the same for Detroit. If anything, you could make a case that maybe 10% drops off it. But I think this is more about Jamison Williams and the way he's come through his career. And I think if he comes into this year fully healthy, no off-season issues or anything like that, look, that could still happen. That could fuck everything. I get that.
Maybe.
But right now, as it stands, I think there's an opportunity for him to hit the ground running this year, and we're going to see the absolute best out of Jamo that we just haven't quite seen. We've seen moments, we've seen flashes, we've seen this amazing receiver get going, but I think there's more consistency this year, and I'm taking my shot. This is another one that I can see why people aren't. It's not this guaranteed thing. I just think there's going to be so much offense still for Detroit this year. And if there's a few more touchdowns in the air that aren't always going on the ground, there's a little bit like positive regression for the passing game, I believe, this year. I just think there's more opportunities for a guy like Jamo to really stamp his foot in this offense this year. So I've always been confident in him. I just think this is the year with no distractions that he can get it done.
He's certainly got a bit of an identity in that offense as a series, as the season wore on last year. So, yeah, it gives me confidence in him too. And I quite like a bit of Jamison Williams. I like just that he can just streakily get you a 10-point play out of nowhere. I kind of like that because you're generally not investing a whole heap in him. You're saying this year, this might be the year to really, just consider investing in him a little more strongly because you think that the output might be a little bit more consistent.
Yep. Yeah, I just think this could be that year where you're never going to ADP anywhere near this ever again. That's my hope for him this year.
Oh, like what a great way to wrap up the wide receivers.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
You know how sometimes the first play of the game can be a real tone setter?
Is it like Crash Bandicoot? Ooga booga.
And he's landed in New England.
There is no more New England. It's New England now.
England?
Yeah.
Can't explain that.
It's asses instead of horses on there.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Hey, mate, we've got 2 positions left to go, but to me, both of them, we call them the onesie positions because in most standard leagues, you're playing a quarterback and you're playing a tight end. We kind of talk about the we kind of talk about the quarterbacks like we've got 2 quarterback leagues in mind a little bit. There will be a couple to talk about who will fall into that range, but straight out of the gate, there doesn't seem to be any conjecture at all as to who the top 3 quarterbacks are. It's some mixture of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Haven't really seen people muck around with that too much more unless they've got a little bit of, positive sentiment towards Jaden Daniels. I've seen that kind of get wrapped in there. Mate, we pretty much have those top few all side by side. But you and I were a little hotter than everyone else on Baker Mayfield. I've been much louder on this because I'm a good 2 spots higher than you. He's going to pass 550 times, and I've just got faith that Mike Evans is going to help drag that train along. But the next one that we are super high on is Joe Burrow, and then right behind him, we are 8 and 7 spots higher on Jordan Love than the major ranking sites, who have him as a middling quarterback 2 at number 16 overall. We think you could take him at 8 or 9. You tell me why this is such a great idea.
Well, I've been looking at him, and I reckon he might be my favorite, 2 quarterback league targets because I just think that ranking of 16 is just his floor. I just think that everyone looks at last year and there's this idea of Love that he's just not consistent and he can be completely taken out of games. And I get that, but if anything, that gives me more reason to believe that things could turn more in his favor this year. I think he is a very good quarterback. I think this offense, even though it's hard to pick who's going to get it every week, I still think that drafting Golden and having all those wide receivers, I think it actually does help him. And the fact was, I've talked about, positive touchdown regression. There has to be some for him this year. There were so many touchdowns on the ground for Jacobs last year. Even if just 3 or 4 more of those go to Love in the air, it completely changes his season. Yeah. I just think he's getting drafted to his floor, honestly. I don't see him finishing anywhere any lower than 16. Whereas I think he can easily get himself into that top 10 with a bit more positive regression in the touchdown department. And if this Packers offense is anywhere as good as it was last year, I just think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him, and there's plenty of pass catches to actually get the job done for him. And what if Golden does hit? Like that could honestly turn him somewhere between like the quarterback 5 to 7 range. You're getting an absolute steal. So I like him. Like, I've got someone I'm a little bit higher on that I think actually will be my top target, but he's definitely a range that I think is getting underranked.
I mean, we are really saying we think that the major rankers have just got him all wrong. And like, as you say, the difference between a couple of touchdowns going to the passing game compared to the rushing game last year moves it from 25 to 30 passing touchdowns pretty much. Yeah, mate, no worries. That's a comfortably top 10 fantasy quarterback. So, like, and that is a very, very easy thing to have corrected, considering just how touchdown heavy the running game was last year. It's not like there's been some great big scheme change there with new offensive coordinators, new head coaches, or anything like that. Just kind of think that was an anomaly of them just being in positions where they can pan it in from the one a bit more than often. So I'm quite big on Jordan Love, which is a horrible thing for me to say because I generally don't like the Packers at all. But mate, you want to bring up one that you're super, super high on? Dive in there and give us your goods here, mate.
I just can't fathom the ranking on Dak Prescott this year. It honestly doesn't make any sense to me. Like, he's getting ranked like kind of where you were saying Love was, like 15, 16 range. And
they're side by side.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I've got him ranked as my quarterback 7. I did about 10, and then I took another look at it, and I went, you know what? I've seen this guy do it before. Yes, he had a little period where he was using his legs, which isn't really his game anymore, but this guy gets so much done in the air, and this team just all they want to do is throw it. Like, they haven't really, we talked about Javonte being decent for fantasy this year, but they didn't really address that part. They are going to throw so much. And, people aren't making enough of George Pickens going there. Yes, George Pickens has his issues. He has his off-field. He talks a lot of crap and whatever. But the fact is, like, that they traded nothing to get him, to pair him with CeeDee Lamb. Like, that is a very, very good passing unit now. Like, he doesn't need a lot back to throw for 4,500 yards, but he has just got absolute weapons at his disposal. Like, you got my boy fucking Turd Ferguson there, like he's going to catch a bunch of touchdowns in the bloody red zone. Like, they are going to have a prolific offense again, especially in the passing game. And I just don't understand where this ranking of 15 is coming from. Like, are they worried about his injury? Like, it isn't really a lingering injury that he got. Yes, it took him out for those last 6 or so weeks, but it was like his hammy. Like, it's not something that, yes, hammies are worried about re-injury rate when they happen. Like, you see them in the NRL and things like that, and you worry that people come back too quick from them. Like, they come back in like 2 or 3 weeks when they should have waited 5 or whatever. I'm not more concerned about a hammy that he's had 8 months to recover from. Like, that, like, I'd be more worried about ACLs and Achilles and stuff like that than I would, a hammy. So I don't think this is an injury you need to look at as really a thing for this year. Like, it's something he's going to easily recover from by week 1. So I just don't see why we're worried about him. We're not judging him like he needs to be a rusher anymore. Like, he hasn't rushed for a couple of years now, and he's still had very good fantasy finishes. So,
because the passing volume, 590 passing attempts each year, he's played all 16. It's so much volume.
I don't know where the 15 comes from. Like, it's just, it's a complete flaw. I honestly think it's lower than his floor. Like, I don't know. I think he's like, honestly, if he plays most of the games this year, I think he finishes lower than a quarterback 12. I honestly don't. I
can't imagine the world where that happens.
I'm super confident on him this year, and I just think I'm going to get such value on him this year. It's insane.
Because I've got him ranked at 13, so I'm still pretty cool on him. But, I mean, then I started looking at who I've got above him, and it's like, well, I could probably move Kyler down. I do expect Goff to still be fine. It's just there's this group of people, and I've got him at the bottom of that group. It's not that I'm particularly stronger or particularly weaker on any of them. He just kind of fell there because that's, he's part of this, like, organism of quarterbacks who I think kind of have kind of have just enough going for them, but just enough not going for them to not have huge conviction on them. So again, like I'm going to be happy to be super wrong on that ranking, and that may be something that I pull up a little bit. But the next guy who I wanted to bring up, because we are in consensus of not liking this guy at all, is that Justin Herbert in the consensus rankings is about 11. I've just seen him ranked at 11. It seems to be his number now. Mate, you and I have him I've got him at 20. You've got him at 17. We spoke about how this is a run-first offense and this is a pounded in on the goal line. That's the majority of the concern for Justin Herbert for you. It certainly is for me.
Yeah, I'm not confident at all. I wasn't confident going into last year. I haven't really seen anything like, yes, he got McConkey, who was a bit of a standout, and I just think this team can easily just turn to the run and win games without Herbert having to dominate. And it's a bit of a Harbaugh thing. Like he loves Herbert, and in any situation where they felt like they really needed Herbert, I'm sure he would unleash him. But I just don't know if they're going to need to. Like, this is a fantasy comment. It's not a real life comment. I think Herbert, he's had his concerns in the playoffs, and he's had some times where I have actually questioned him. But I think in general, he's a higher tiered quarterback in real life. But it just doesn't seem to translate for fantasy for him anymore. He isn't this gunslinger you saw when he first came out in his rookie season, and he doesn't have to be. And that's kind of good
defense now.
Like it's kind of like what you're seeing with Mahomes now. Like it's just the teams have realized that they can win in a different way, and it's not fantasy friendly, but they don't give a shit about that, the coaching staff. So they've kind of just turned Herbert into this sort of middling quarterback 2 in fantasy, and that's just how you've got to deal with him now.
Yeah, so I think that we may see the ranking sites come to us on that one. I really do. There's one other guy in that kind of part of the world who we actually like more, and we've talked a lot about why. Matt Stafford is currently getting ranked by the major sites at around 20. You and I have him at 14 and 15. We just love his passing targets now that Devontae Adams is in, right?
I'll have him this year, because if I get a bit of Adams, and I'm talking about him leading the league in touchdowns, then I'm going to want that stack. It's going to be a stack that I have a few of this year, I think, because like you said, Stafford's just kind of getting left for dead, and the fact that he's got both there, and obviously even Kyron gets involved in the passing game too. I think this offense is going to absolutely hum this year. It's not so much like what I brought up the Panthers. Like, I think a lot of people will have that comment, so this isn't one where I'm saying, the Rams are super slept on. I think a lot of people are going to think this offense is going to go well, but it's funny how that doesn't somehow translate to Stafford. Kyron had a lot of touchdowns last year too, so you could make the case again that positive touchdown regression goes to the passing game with Stafford. So, yeah, I just really like him with Adams coming to town. I just think this offense could be one of the better ones this year. So, and you're getting Stafford at the bare bottom of his floor if this offense stays healthy.
Yeah, to me, there's zero way he'll finish in the quarterback 19 to 20 range. There's just zero way. We are saying middle quarterback 2. So to me, this is saying if you wanted to go in and not spend a huge amount on quarterbacks, you go get Jordan Love and Matt Stafford, and then go and get some passing targets for them and double stack up into quarterback and feel very good about yourself.
Yeah, give me Dak Prescott and Stafford, or Jordan Love and Dak, or Jordan Love and Stafford. I think that's going to be very popular for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, mate, we're going to dive across now to the tight ends, and this has got to be the least controversial position in fantasy at the moment, because you've got Brock Bowers, pretty well consensus number 1 everywhere, Trey McBride or George Kittle in that 2 and 3 spots, depending on what your flavor is. You've been very strident on George Kittle. Can I just get you to strike up the band on George Kittle for me, mate? Or is that even his name? I heard he got his name changed.
Are you talking about George Legittle? Is that
that's the one? There you go. That's the one.
Oh, good. Oh, I just wasn't sure if that's what you were talking about, mate.
Oh, mate, when players change their names, I'm always slow to catch up. Yeah.
And Matty, I'm making a live change. George Kittle is now my tight end 1. I'm going all in. This is not a slide on Brock Bowers, because I think Brock Bowers will be amazing, but I just want to throw it out there that Kittle is going to be the only sort of tight end that's sort of being ranked in that top 3 range that I will have some of. I think he's in for a massive year. And For anyone who thinks that fantasy's the same every single year and you've got guys you just think you like, this is proof in the pudding that is not true. Because I have sat here and talked down George Kittle in fantasy so many years in a row. Like, he's often been drafted to like the tight end 5-6 range, and I've still said I don't like it because I just think the problem is there's never been consistency with him, because week to week, it's like, all right, if every guy is healthy, he just gets left for dead. He's not used in that way. He's such an amazing blocking tight end, or he's so amazing at drawing defenses to him and then leaving other guys open. He does a lot of things for the team that you don't see on the box score.
Yes.
So
and he loves doing it. He loves it. Have you seen him mic'd up? He doesn't care what job he goes out there to do. He does it to the best of his ability, and he's fucking laughing doing it. He loves it.
He loves WrestleMania and fucking WWE and shit like that. That's all he wants to do, and he takes more pride in that I think sometimes than the touchdowns and everything. So he likes that. But this year, he's in this situation where I've always wanted him to be, but he's never come into a season like this. Everyone's generally been healthy as they've come in, so it's hard for me to rank him high or think that he's a good value even at tight end 5 or 6. Whereas this year, like, to me, even if you're getting him at like tight end 3, because there's going to be an uplift, like, people aren't stupid, but even if it's like the back of the 3rd or something, early 4th, I still think there's value to him this year. So to me, like, look, I'm not saying I'll have him everywhere because I'm just not a high tight end guy. But he does represent that value to me that I'm really confident in him this year because of his situation with, bloody no Debo. IU probably won't even start. He'll probably be on the pup and won't play. Like, and even when he comes back, he looked like absolute shit last year, even before he got in. God knows what that looks like. You got CMC back. How long does he last? Even if CMC's there, that might just be good for him because he takes pressure off. And then Kittle's open down the middle even more. Like, I don't know. I just think there's an opportunity for him to have an amazing fantasy year because it hasn't always been there for him. So it's not like he's tired from all the fantasy work. This would actually just be amazing for him. He was actually people forget how good he was last year. And he didn't have this situation all last year, and he still finished. I think there was actually some scoring formats he was tight end 1. Just out of hours, whereas he was generally like tight end 1 or 2 in all the. So this isn't like a leap, honestly, even from last year. He was amazing last year. So I think there's an opportunity for him to be absolutely dominant with the situation for the Niners this year, and I can't be any higher on him. So I'm going to move into my tight end 1. And again, that's not saying Bowers doesn't have an amazing season. I think he's an absolute freak. But I'm going to say Kittle just beats him out, and like I said, I'll have a lot more Kittle than I will Bowers because I think there's going to be more value for Kittle. Sorry, Legittle. Who's Kittle?
Legittle. This is what it sounds like to hear a man in a car in the dark with a full erection in the middle of the night. That's what it sounds like.
If you've ever wondered, this is what it sounds like.
So 100%. What is great about the rest of the tight end ranks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we are not more than sort of 1.5 places off consensus, and each other we're not more than, there's like one guy who we're like 2 apart from because you've got Jono at 6 and I've got Jono at 8. So, there's not even a heap to talk about with those guys, but we're digging Jake Ferguson. Can I get you to tell me a little bit about Jake Ferguson? I've got a feeling this pairs with Dak, right?
Yeah, look, it's similar to what I was bringing up last year. Like, to a slightly lesser degree, because I think Pickens is going to be pretty involved. But, I mean, you had Brandon Cooks involved and stuff like that. So it's not like, Pickens is going to take absurd amount from him. It's just he's always used in the red zone. Like, he's not going to be this guy, this tight end to me that's going to, like, rely on volume and be this guy that's going to be suddenly, like, catching 7, 8 passes a game. But I just think this Cowboys team, their defense really leaks points, and there's so many opportunities that they're behind. And they always seem to just get themselves into the red zone, especially in the second halves of games. And I just think that opens it up for Ferguson so often. You could actually make a case that Pickens being there might actually help him. Because if all of a sudden all the defenses are worried about CD and Pickens in the red zone, that just opens up the middle of the field even more for him. I like him. I'll probably be a little less high. I was super into him last year. Like, I basically said he would probably be my guy in the tight end position because I just thought the value was there. I don't know if I'll be that keen on him this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm just drafting him at the end of drafts as my tight end a bit again this year. Like, it's pretty much just rinse and repeat for him this year. I just think this Cowboys offense just passes a shitload again, and you just see more of the same from Ferguson.
I mean, you got him fringe top 10. I'm a bit cooler than that. I've got him sort of in the middle of tight end 2, and the consensus ranking's 14. So you're sort of 3 above, I'm 3 below. But, mate, I think that's one too where we may end up just setting a line on him because I do kind of wonder whether Pickens helps him or whether it's the other way around. But I think once we sort of see a little bit more about how the Cowboys come to market, I think that'll be an interesting one to talk about. We both agree that Dalton Schultz getting ranked at 24 and 25 is a bit absurd, and we both have him in that the earlier part of tight end 2, sort of 12 and 13 each. Mate, this is just, you don't have Stephon Diggs. We don't know what Tank Dell's going to look like, and everyone else is young. So it's Nico Collins and who? Right?
Yeah, it's like I do have a little bit of conviction on Higgins, the second rounder they took. I do think he sort of looks like he's going to be the wide receiver too. But again, it's a rookie. You don't know. Like, it's all extra right now. And you're right. Like, there's nothing really solid outside of basically Nico, and then you'll see Mixon involved in the passing game out of the backfield. But yeah, I just think there's a spot opened up for Schultz because we came into last year going, there's there's Nico, there's Tank, and there's Stephon. It's like all these guys in front of Dalton Schultz, but now all of a sudden 2 of the 3 aren't there. So Tank Dell's already been ruled out for the season. So he's basically battling out rookies for everything behind Nico Collins now. So that gives him a better opportunity.
And unlike Tanks, Dalton Schultz has hands, and unlike this Tank, he has legs as well. So I just kind of feel like he's got a few advantages that Tank Dell didn't have.
That's great analysis.
Yeah, right there. So write those things down. Mate, I also foreskinned a little earlier about how I've just kind of got this non-statistical belief that everyone else has sung this song once, and it's my fucking turn, damn it. You know how when people at karaoke and everyone gets to sing a big song and you know no one's done, you're the voice, so that's the one you get up and do. I've got Kyle Pitts, and I reckon this is just got to be the year where he does finally have that top 10 year. Come on, he's got to, surely. When's it ever going to line up better than this?
It could even be a boat.
I mean, fuck, it could be. I mean, at 10. I've got him at 10. I'm not saying that I want to change the world for him, but the consensus is at 17. I understand why. Statistically, he has not been super relevant, but he was getting a bit of eye from Penix, and that offense was looking far better toward the end of last year. And do I expect it to track the same way as it was at the end of last year and everything to go where it did? No. But I just feel like there's just, before you let this man walk out of your building after you put the 4th overall pick into him, surely you've just got to make sure before you let him walk that you haven't done everything you can to get something out of him.
Mate, we've talked about this guy so much in the last few years, and it really is just a bet on Penix, I guess. Like, it's like, do they actually use this guy in a good situation where they actually give him some routes that are more like tight end routes? Because they were trying to give him like wide receiver routes who I feel like that gets
him as a split end. They weren't even using him as a tight end. They were splitting him off the line.
I just don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't know if he really has that in him. Like, everyone thought when they drafted him that he did, but it just hasn't really worked for him. I'd like to actually see them just use him more as a traditional tight end and just get him more involved with some shorter targets or something, because there is a chance with his athleticism that he could turn shorter targets into yak and actually do a bit more with it that way. So it's really just like a coaching situation, is what can they actually do for this guy, and can Penix take that step up in his second year and sort of just be good enough in the passing game to give that to him. So I'm fine, because he's so lowly ranked. I've got no issue with anyone just taking a shot on him, because what's it costing you? You're basically taking him. This is exactly where I like to take shots on tight ends. So I've got no issue if you're ranking him at 10 and taking him as the tight end of a draft, because who cares? He's basically a streamer at that point. If he sucks ass in the first week or two, you just take someone else. So
and go and pick up one of the other guys who I wanted to mention here. Because, I mean, this is my strategy at tight end, and it sounds like from the way that you've ranked Kittle too, that you could live by this. Be the first guy to get a tight end and get a real positional advantage from a guy you think is going to just kick nuts and take names, or just be the last guy, because 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, they're all the same. So to me, this is just me hedging that this will be the year. I've got no statistical reason for this. I just feel like emotionally, deep down, this has to be the one time where they give it a real bash. The guys who you could drop and then pick up in the instance that Pitts doesn't deliver too quickly are these rookies, man. You've got a lot more conviction on these rookie tight ends than I do. I found it difficult to rank them, but Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland for you coming at 12 and 14 respectively in that order. We see Tyler Warren wind up in Indianapolis and Colston Loveland wind up at Chicago, making, sadly, pour one out for Cole Kmet. We may never say his name again.
Yeah, and I'll even throw Taylor at the Jets. I actually don't.
He's going to get all the Conklin volumes, you reckon? Conk.
It's just it is that. It's like there's no one else there, and they like Fields has a propensity to actually target his tight ends when he's there. Like it seems to be the best part. Passing repertoire is hitting his tight end, and I just think there's an opportunity there. Like again, it's one that I could get for absolute free. It's kind of like taking a Parkinson from last year. It's just shots on these guys that I just think could hit. I get the feeling that maybe I'd be taking like him or Warren, maybe more so than Loveland, because I think someone might take Loveland a little earlier just because everyone, looks at him as like the new Sam Laporta, and I think someone might get a bit hot and bothered. Like if you're in a league of Kev, he's probably going to take him fucking 101. So, I do think there's a better chance I'm going to be looking at those other two as a later tight end, like literally in the last round is my just sort of complete dart throw. I just think, I don't know, the way... Look, I don't think it's a sticky stat, all this tight end rookie stuff. Like, I just really think that you saw Laporta come into that best possible offense 2 years ago and have a ridiculous touchdown rate. And then you saw an absolute freak of nature in Brock Bowers that we're probably never going to see again in our lifetime. Like, I really do think it's not the norm. But I do also believe that there is opportunities when these guys go to teams that need them to produce. There is at least that like thought process of, hey, there has been some guys that have stepped up and been better for fantasy than you would have expected. So, like, do I think either of these guys are going to all of a sudden be a Laporta or Boyles? No, I don't. But is there a chance that they could like get themselves into that like top 8 range as a guy I've drafted last? Yeah, sure. Well, it's not a huge bar to actually get over. And if the Jets need their tight end to actually do stuff straight away, and I've talked about the Colts, and if I'm picking a guy with talent and someone that could actually usurp some of these receivers and be the guy that's getting the most volume each week, that's who I'm taking over just like someone that I think's a dart throw and might have a touchdown here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense enough to me because, again, to me, I'm the first or the last guy to get a tight end, and in more recent years, I've tended to be the last. So it's this pool who I'm looking at. But yeah, I just don't have a ton of confidence in the rookie tight ends in the last 2 years. That's, shame on me. But I am also of the opinion that, there's nothing sticky about it. That was just kind of just weird that Brock Bowers had the Darren Waller season as his rookie year. And we just haven't seen anyone do that for the Lions ever. So, that was kind of cool for Laporta the year before. Mate, I've gotten to the bottom of the list of everybody who I thought we would find interesting to talk to. How do you feel we went? Do you reckon we did a good job covering some stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. The only other guy, I don't think I'll have this guy much because I think he'll go too high, is Hockenson. I just wanted to bring him up because he obviously only came through late last year. He's coming off the pretty bad injury. Then I'd still believe in this Vikings offense, and I think KOC is going to sketch up for him. He might go a little bit later to give me at least a little bit of value, maybe at least a legal two, because they are going to be worried about the rookie quarterback. I don't know. I don't share those worries. I just trust KOC in this offense, and they're going to get the job done. So I think he's going to come into a pretty prominent role straight away. If he's getting drafted around tight end 4 or 5 or something, it's just hard. I would probably rather just take Kittle in that range, because I think Kittle's got the upside of being the tight end 1. I don't know if I think Hockenson does. I do believe he'll be top, upper echelon, but do I believe it's going to be enough to actually be worth the draft pick in the 5th round? I don't know. So I just thought I'd bring him up because I do think he's got the ability to have a very good season. I just don't know if, based off my drafting strategy, if he's ever going to be in a position. If he somehow drops into the 6th or the 7th or something, keep an eye on it because we don't know exactly what everyone's going to be thinking. But if you somehow drop to there, then sure, like I might go a little higher on tight end and take one there on the shot one guy like him because I think there's a very good chance he's top 5. But I just thought I'd bring him up because I don't know if people have sort of thought about him because he didn't really do much last year.
No, and I guess the new quarterback there changes things a little bit too because we didn't get to see a lot of Darnold with him. And Darnold, surely, he really surprised everybody. And there's no reason why McCarthy can't come in and look really serviceable. But, we just didn't get a good window of what Hockenson looks like since Cousins moved out. So it's a good one because I think, he's getting ranked at sort of 4 and 5 everywhere. And to me, I think if he then returns 4th or 5th, then you've probably done pretty well. To me, it's difficult for him to break any higher.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree. Yeah. And that's
probably why I won't own any of him. No.
It's like if Kittle's going tight end 3, I'd find it hard. Like I'd almost come out of my draft. If I only got a round value on Hockenson over Kittle, I'd feel like I did a disservice to my draft. Like
you need Kittle to drop. You need Hockenson to drop.
It's like I rather would have taken Kittle the 3rd or waited for fucking Ferguson in the 12th. It would have probably felt better because I would have probably liked around it.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that's 100% what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up taking these guys who are the equivalent of anything unsubmerged in the Bay Maria's half price kind of guys, just at the end of the day when you're clearing out the cafe. I think that's going to be where I find my ton in a lot of leagues this year. That's a really good consideration to bring up at the end there, Tay. Mate, what we're going to do now is we're going to take another couple of week hiatus while we get into a little bit more of the research part of it. And we're going to come back and do a mock draft in about a fortnight or 3 weeks' time to get a real appreciation for where the rubber meets the road. What have we done with our rankings in the time being? And how does that look when we try to construct a team? So, mate, we do these every year. And I love this part of the season because there is so much experimental in it. You looking forward to that?
Yeah, it kind of makes it more real. It's like once you start getting into mock draft season, it's like we're really getting into the nitty gritty, and we're starting to put what we've been, I guess, not looking at like as religiously as we will later, but just at least starting to get that lay of the land of like where people are going, and people would have mock drafted a bit more, so you'll get a better idea of ADP than we're probably getting now. So you can sort of start locking down your my guys a bit more, and then I'll definitely have done a lot more research into guys like the running backs and stuff like that I like a bit more by then. But everything we've done so far has just been a bit of gut feel, and I don't think things change absurdly for me. But there might be a guy or two that pop out of nowhere that I haven't brought up yet that I look into the data and realise, I'm way more in this guy than I'd realised.
Right, and I'm looking forward to those evolutions too. That's kind of the best bit of these next sort of 10 weeks. Just the information comes in, you get to see fellas hit camp and that kind of thing as well. And you really do get to start seeing how rosters will start to be configured, and we get to put that together on fantasy mock drafts as well, and hopefully help people just learn a little bit about value. As the season approaches too, I'm going to be running a little series too on the Instagram that I did last year of stories for fantasy football for beginners too. So if you haven't brought somebody to fantasy football last year or the year before, firstly, shame on you. Secondly, not too late to fix it. We run that series in some way, shape or form of fantasy football for beginners every year, and it'd just be a good way to be able to introduce somebody to fantasy and show them it's not all super complicated, and it can be quite fun. And at the end of it all, it's a game, right, Tay?
Yeah. Look, we've taken it a bit more serious than that sometimes, but you're right. It is just a game at the end.
What are you talking about?
It's about the friends we meet along the way, isn't it, mate? And the shit that we talk.
100%, mate. 100%. And then the battles, the rivalries, I've got this beautiful bronze Shaktik that I've got on loan from you for a little while, Tay. This is the thing. Like, it just breeds, and that's where the fun is, right? It becomes a bit tribal and a bit, sometimes a bit silly. And as this season and preseason rolls on too, I think the trademark wackiness will start to re-emerge again too.
Mate, they're prizes you can't buy. No one can buy a bronze Shaktik. It's got to be won. It's got to be earned.
Cannot. It's bespoke. Bronze Shaktik, I think you'll find.
People buy that are similar for different reasons, but for this fantasy football reason, it can't be bought.
Oh my gosh. My brain hurts thinking about that.
That's a great visual.
Added to the list of things at the moment that hurt. I'm struggling a little bit with a bit of unwellness this week, but that is just opening a whole new range of things to hurt.
It's probably opening up a different part of someone as well. But anyway.
Mate, thank you again. We'll catch up with you again in a couple of weeks' time. In the meantime, look after yourself, brother, and hooroo. You
too, mate. Take care of that sickness. I'm motherfucking down with the sickness.
Down with the sickness. See you, mate. Go Blues.
Yeah. Please and shit.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Thanks to the Aussie Gridiron Network, Australia's home for NFL and Australian gridiron content. Discover everything the network has to offer, including G'day Gridiron, Pastry Press, NFL, and Aussie Gridiron Today. Buy merch and win free stuff. Visit the mothership at linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. Hooroo!